In 1988, an international organization called Moving Picture Experts Group is created with the goal of suggesting new standards for the compression and storage of audiovisual content, aka videos. A video is basically made of two things stitched together, a sequence of images and an audio file. And so the MPEG team's goal is to find a way to create a new standard to compress both of them as efficiently as possible, with their first project being called MPEG-1. Let's put the image part aside for a second and talk about the audio one. A subgroup is created in order to figure out how to take these huge PCM digital files like the ones you find in audio CDs and somehow make them smaller without making them sound like crap. After years of research in psychoacoustics and audio compression with the help of the Fraunhofer Society, 3 different audio layer standards are developed, with each one of them being more complex and efficient than the previous one. And as part of this research effort between 1991 and 92, a small piece of demo software is developed and shared around between academia and corporate labs to test this developing technology and potentially improve on it. This demo software can take any uncompressed PCM audio file and encode it into a 90% smaller lossy file. All of this without making it sound any worse to most human ears. This amazing feat is possible thanks to the Audio Layer 3 technology, or as you might know it today, MP3. So what happens is that this demo software gets shared around a lot, with one copy ending up in the hard drive of a computer of the University of Erlangen in Germany. A Dutch teenager going by the nickname Solo gets remote access to this computer, downloads the demo software, writes a graphical interface for it, and leaks it for free to the public under the name MPEG-Inc. Using MPEG-Inc and similar software because, yeah, this was far from the only software leak. Starting in 95, scene groups started to pop up that rip CDs sometimes before the official release date, encode them to MP3, and share the music around on the internet for free. Downloading an uncompressed song in the 90s with a 56K modem is almost impossible. But compared to lossless, MP3 files are so small they single-handedly make music piracy possible. By 1999, with the launch of Napster, music piracy is not only possible, but it's also super easy, it's convenient. And even though by 2001, after several lawsuits, Napster would be dead, music piracy is here to stay. And also on the legal side, you got iTunes, launching in 2001, which is basically Napster but legal. You could legally buy single songs and download them to your Mac or PC or this thing called the iPod. iTunes might be the most important thing that happened in 2001 after, Gran Turismo 3. You start having this digital music collection that's on your home computer, but you would also want to listen to it somewhere else, like in your living room, in your kitchen when you're cooking something, you want to listen to some music there, for example, or in your bathroom when you're taking a shower. And it would be cool to have something like we have today. So streaming music directly from your home computer, from that hard drive, your entire collection, to your devices around your house. So your hi-fi in the living room, your radio in the bathroom. This is what SqueezeBox was and is. Despite it being obsolete and discontinued technology, due to it being an open source project, you can not only still use it today, but it's still pretty cool. It's been getting new features over the years, it's still up to date, and I generally think it is still one of the best ways to listen to both your offline collection of music and also music from streaming services. And today we'll talk about it, and also I'm going to tell you why I love this little guy so much. But first, this video is sponsored by boot.dev. I'm not a programmer by any means, I'm an art student, but sometimes when I'm working on a project like my last video, I do inevitably need to write some code to make it work. My attention span sucks, so I'm not great when it comes to following conventional online lessons, and that's where boot.dev comes in, because it turns learning Python and Go backend programming into a game. Like, it's structured like a fantasy RPG. You have your quests, you have riddles, you have items, you have chests that you unlock by gaining XP, you have an online leaderboard, and it doesn't feel like you're learning. Like, it feels like you're playing a game like Professor Layton on your DS, but you are indeed actually learning by doing. And I like how it is structured to prevent you from getting bored and getting stuck, so you can do some lessons, come back a few days later, and if you don't remember something, you can very easily get back into the flow. And it's amazing, it's genuinely pretty fun. So if you want to try it out, you can go to boot.dev and use the code FAMI for 25% off your first year, and you also have a 30-day no questions asked money back guarantee, so if you're unsure, you can safely try it out. Thanks to boot.dev for supporting the channel, and now, back to SqueezeBoxing. It's the year 2000. In the End by Linkin Park is on the radio, and Sean Adams, a 27-year-old college dropout, found SlimDevices in Mountain View, California as a classic Silicon Valley startup company. He's working on both hardware and software, and 1 year later he launches his first prototype/product, the Slim P3. This was so DIY starting out. It's using a remote made by Sony. They also launched the Slim Server that's meant to be installed on your home computer, and the idea is simple. Slim Server running on your home computer, which is, it's 2001, your home computer is going to be a huge noisy piece of trash. But that piece of trash is also keeping your music collection alive in its hard drive. So Slim Server shares your music over Ethernet to your home network, and then the Slim P3, which is your client, which is also connected using Ethernet, can access all of the music that's on your computer hard drive through your home network without you having to burn CDs or copy files to USB drives. You simply get to stream music from one room to the other. Now, while this wasn't the only product that will let you do this, Cathode Radio made a fantastic video on the Dell Media Receiver, which is pretty much the same thing, but what makes SlimDevices stand out is that from the get-go, Slim Server is open source. So if you have the skills, you can actually help build the software and make it better. And you can also avoid buying the client hardware entirely. With the entire protocol being open source from the get-go, software client emulators immediately start to pop up. So if, for example, you wanted to use your laptop as a client and your desktop as a server, you could do that. Over the years, SlimDevices hardware and software both get better and better, especially after the introduction of the first SqueezeBox player, with audiophiles especially loving the product for how open it is and how customizable it is. But what turns the SqueezeBox from something niche into something pretty much rated E for everyone is in 2005 the introduction of the SqueezeBox 3, and the transporter, which is basically a super fancy audiophile SqueezeBox 3, because with this model, SlimDevices launches SqueezeNetwork.com, then rebranded MySqueezebox.com, which makes the SqueezeBox players also plug and play. It's a central server that doesn't require you to host anything at home. If you don't want to bother setting anything up like a fucking nerd, you can now use your SqueezeBox to listen to online radios, or most importantly, access paid music streaming services like Pandora. And remember, we're talking about 2005, okay? Just to make you remember what era this was, Crazy Frog Racer just came out on the PS2 and Windows looks like this. And in this era, if you own a SqueezeBox and pay for a music streaming service that is compatible with it, you get to stream music from the internet like we do today. Which, depending on who you are, is amazing, or the end of everything and it has to be destroyed going back in time Terminator style. But I suspect that this leap in technology and accessibility is what leads Logitech, they keep popping up for some reason, to want to acquire SlimDevices for their own. They really were on a shopping spree in the early 2000s. Logitech acquired SlimDevices in 2006 for $20 million, and they promised that it's going to stay independent on the Logitech, it's just going to be a rebrand like the one we've seen with Harmony 2 years prior. And initially this does seem to be the case. The products remain the same, they just get rebranded to Logitech. Slim Server becomes Logitech Media Server, and that's not going to be the last rebrand for that software, more on that later. And yeah, the plan going forward is to keep the company independent with its employees, but give them the kind of money and resources that only Logitech can actually provide to them. And this is something that they do often, by the way. It's not just Harmony or SqueezeBox. They did this with Ultimate Ears, with Yeti for microphones. Yes, those are made by Logitech now. And for a bit, everything seems to be going fantastic. We get insanely cool products like the SqueezeBox Duet that you've seen in the intro, and we'll get to that later because I got one and it's amazing. They released the SqueezeBox Touch, which is very inspired by the iPhone, but if you look closer, you can see that stuff isn't really going smooth behind the scenes. Sean Adams actually quits the company in 2009, and I can't find any info on him after that. And this was a sign of what was to come, because in 2012, Logitech out of nowhere decides to discontinue every SqueezeBox product, folding the existing line of products into Ultimate Ears. So for example, they keep selling the SqueezeBox radio as the Ultimate Ears Smart Radio, and it has a different firmware now, but it's the same product, same hardware. You can install the normal SqueezeBox firmware on the Smart Radio too. But yeah, all of a sudden, after spending $20 million, after 6 years, they decide to kill this line of products. However, they commit to keeping MySqueezebox.com and the services alive for the time being, which is up until last year, 2024, because in February they shut down the services. And that's why I'm making this video, because you have to remember Logitech owned the line of products, but the underlying software powering everything was open source. And so what happens is that the community steps in and turns the Logitech Media Server software into Lyrion Music Server. Hey, it's Comfy Fami here, not to be confused with HTDVD's Magli Fami, that's a different person. These glasses make me look like Scott Watts. I'm here to show you how easy it is to set up Lyrion Music Server on your computer. I've already set up a main installation for my household on my Diet by ARM NAS, and there it was literally a matter of 2 clicks because Lyrion Music Server is part of the packages you can install directly on there. But to show you how you can do this on your average computer, Windows or Mac computer or whatever you're running right now, I have my MacBook here and I'm going to screen record. Actually, I'm going to do something even better. Thanks to my Patreon supporting the channel, I unlocked this power now. Maybe thanks to them in a few months or years or decades, I'll be able to buy my dream car. I have the Lyrion Music Server wiki open here. I'm on Mac, so I'm going to download the Apple macOS installation. I'm not doing any cuts here, except when I do. Okay, let's open the DMG file, not to be confused with the DMX one. I just need to drag this to my applications, and I'm done. On Windows, you just need to run an installer. It's your usual Windows stuff. And yeah, everything I have to do now is open the server. Apple here is telling me, do you really want to open this? Are you sure it's safe? Yeah, it's safe. Just let me run the goddamn thing. Let's go here and click Open Web Control, because you control the entire thing using either your browser or a SqueezeBox or a SqueezeBox emulating device. We'll get to that later. Here we can choose if you want to install the material skin and the music and artist information plugins or not. These 2 plugins are pretty cool because you get to have your cake, which is playing music that's ripped from your own CD collection or obtained through other means that I'm not going to explore for legal reasons, and also have the entire spectrum of artist information that services like Spotify or Tidal or Koboots offer to you. Apple Music, and you're also asked if you want to install any plugins to access music directly from music streaming platforms. I know a lot of you are filthy zoomers that don't want to bother ripping their music or buying music. They just want to listen to some stuff. And I talk like I'm old, but I'm also a zoomer. I get that feeling because that's also me. If you don't want to rip CDs or obtain music through potentially illicit means, you can just stream it from contemporary streaming websites, but you also get to do it through SqueezeBox, potentially using old hardware that you can maybe get for cheap on eBay. Alright, so speaking about hardware that is being dumped on the market because mysqueezebox.com is not online and people don't want to set up their own server, what we have today here as my first example of hardware, not the only one, but this is the first one that I want to show you because I think it's the most unique and interesting one. This is the Duet, the SqueezeBox Duet, and it's called the Duet because, as you can see in the box here, it's got 2 parts to it. The receiver, which is the thing that you plug to your speakers or stereo system, and also the controller that you've also seen in the intro, which is this part right here that I'm about to turn on now. This is, I think, the most interesting part because it's a remote in the shape of an iPod, including working... Yeah, this is the boot sound for the thing. It includes a working click wheel like the iPod, and the UI is pretty much a clone of the iPod. This is supposed to work as a remote for the controller and also any other SqueezeBox device you might have in your house. Let's play Please Please Please. I already paid for the license for that song in this video, so I should be fine. And as you can see, that wasn't supposed to happen. It is working great. We also get the artwork on the screen here, and we get to control the volume pretty easily. If we keep this pressed here, we can skim through the song by using the built-in click wheel. Even after all these years, I think that this remote here, this controller, using it to control any SqueezeBox around your house is one of the most premium feeling ways that you might have to access your music catalog. It just feels great to have in your hand. The materials are so good. Even the dock here, the dock is made of metal. They don't make them like they used to. If this was made today, it would be like cheap, rubbish plastic, but this is chunky, shiny metal. If you touch it, your fingerprints are going to be there forever. This is, on paper, only supposed to be a remote control, a very fancy one, for your receiver unit, okay? This is not supposed to be standalone. But what's weird is that, if you take a look at it, we have a headphone jack on the top here, and also a speaker on the back. So the first time that I tried this, I was like, was this supposed to be a SqueezeBox of its own? Like, was this supposed to work without being connected to the receiver? And if you go here to the settings and you go to Advanced, and then beta features, you can enable standalone playback. Yeah, the quality is actually pretty good. And after doing some research, what I discovered is that the controller actually comes with a pretty good DAC. It's not as high quality as the one in the receiver, but it's a Wolfson WM8750. So as far as I can tell, it's very similar to the DACs used in the classic iPods Apple used to sell. So yeah, if you find one of these, get it. I think these are going to be extremely collectible in like a few years, or probably right now, because I'm making a video about them and I tend to shift the market. I'm sorry for that. I just want to talk about cool shit. So now let's put that aside and talk about the chunkster, the boy, the SqueezeBox radio. And this one that you see right here is actually a Frankenstein of Logitech SqueezeBox radio when it comes to the front part, and an ultimate use one in the back, because I bought two of them and I wanted to have like the best looking one on camera, because like one had scratches on the back, one on the front, and yeah, I kind of mixed them together. That proves what I just said a few minutes ago, that the Logitech SqueezeBox radio and the Ultimate Ears smart radio are literally identical, except for the label on the bottom part here and the logo on the front. And oh, low battery, hold on. The main thing that makes the SqueezeBox radio great is the battery port here. Some of them were shipped with a battery, some weren't. Like, I got two of them. One came with a battery, but I had to buy a battery for the other one separately. It was weird. The SqueezeBox radio seems to be by far the most common SqueezeBox you're going to find on the used market. I've managed to find several of them ranging from 15 euros to 45. I think that for that price it's actually a pretty great deal, because you're getting a pretty nice SqueezeBox here with this physical buttons interface. Gotta hate touchscreen so much! You can connect to it using Wi-Fi and Ethernet. The color display is the same one as the SqueezeBox controller in the Duet, it's just horizontal. It's alright, it's not Retina, but it does the job. But the killer feature here is actually the built-in speaker. The mono speaker here is surprisingly great. It also comes with a pretty powerful headphone out too, and it's powerful enough to also power some decent speakers if you want to just have this as your main SqueezeBox. And something that I really love is that they thought about this product eventually becoming obsolete and people maybe having this laying around and not wanting to host their own SqueezeBox servers. It comes with an audio jack in, so you can just use this as a very portable, very powerful mono speaker for everything, and that's amazing. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking to buy a SqueezeBox on eBay right now, because I know that happens after people watch my videos, try to look for a radio. They're usually the cheapest ones and the most versatile ones. But most importantly, you don't need to buy anything, because you can just use any old Raspberry Pi or ThinkPad as a SqueezeBox client by simply installing something like SqueezeLite or SqueezeLX. That's what I have on my Windows 11 computer, for example. That said, why should you even bother setting up anything like this today? In my case, the main point of using SqueezeBox is being able to listen to my physical collection of CDs that I actually own and nobody can take away from me, while also having the convenience of getting instant access to all of my music with artist info, album info, lyrics, just like on Spotify or Tidal, for example. Combine this with being able to listen to music that is not on streaming services, stuff like live sets, for example, or songs that are not on streaming services anymore for one reason or another. You also don't need the internet to listen to your music. You do need the internet when you're downloading stuff like album covers or artist info, but once that's done, that's on your hard drive and you get access to it even with no internet connection. And again, if you want, on top of this, you also get access to online libraries like Spotify and Tidal. There are plugins for that. And also, thanks to third-party plugins, you don't even need SqueezeBox clients to listen to your music. There are AirPlay and Chromecast plugins and even a DLNA one, which let you treat pretty much any modern device with one of these standards as a SqueezeBox. It's an internal conversion, it's done on the server. And what I'm trying to say is that I think SqueezeBox today basically acts as a Swiss Army knife for your music. If you set it up properly, you get access to both your offline and online music, all neatly organized on every reasonably modern device connected to your home network. Or even not reasonably modern, stuff like the ThinkPad X60S or the vintage SqueezeBox hardware still do work with all of this. and the third-party plugins go nuts. I've just mentioned how there is an AirPlay plugin that lets you stream from your server to AirPlay devices like they were SqueezeBoxes, but there's also a plugin that lets you do the opposite, so it turns your SqueezeBox radio into an AirPlay speaker. If you're on Android, there are Chromecast plugins. If you want to play YouTube music, you can do that too. I see SqueezeBox as a proof of how long-lasting something can be when it's open source and beloved by the community. And most importantly, I want to compare it to Harmony because both of them are ancient products that are still useful, but Harmony is closed source and it's inevitably going to die. The database is not even up to date anymore, and it's eventually bound to be irrelevant one day. SqueezeBox, on the other hand, is pretty much more alive now than ever, all thanks to the fact that it was open source from the get-go and the community has managed to keep the torch alive and make it a better and better product. If it weren't for them, my SqueezeBox radio would be in a landfill by now. But thankfully it is now my bedroom radio and also sometimes an alarm clock. Don't tell the Dream Machine, he would be jealous.